Ladies and gentlemen, it is roasting in Queensland at the moment, so I have got a bit of a sweat on, as you can see. I apologise for that. I'm not going to take anything away from the content I'm about to deliver for you, because it's still going to be shit. Alright, this is one that I've touched on previously, and this is about setting time aside in your relationship to primarily discuss frustrations, but to discuss anything in your relationship, basically. So what we were told is that ideally, you should be setting aside 3 different hourly periods every single week. And in a relationship, they should be an hour to discuss previous frustrations, things that happened in the week prior to this one, and discussing anything that may have hurt your feelings, may have offended you, anything that you were particularly happy with, anything really. You can discuss anything you want about your relationship in that time. You can also do it at any other time, but that particular hour is supposed to be around sharing frustrations mostly. Secondly is an hour of intimacy, so making sure that you put aside that time to share intimate moments together. It doesn't always need to be banging all the time, but just having some level of intimacy with your partner, your spouse, is also suggested. And then thirdly is an hour for fun, to do things together, totally away from any sort of responsibilities as best you can, at least, and trying to have fun, doing puzzles, going for walks, going on bike rides, watching movies. It might be tough in an hour, but there are many different things that you might class as fun, and it is suggested again, or at least to us, that you should try and spend an hour per week doing that activity, doing those things. The one I want to speak on particularly is the one where you speak on previous frustrations and anything else from the prior week that may have offended you. So the reason I think that is so important is because of the way that generally takes place. The whole point of it is to share your feelings around certain behaviours or actions that your partner has or spouse has taken that you may not have necessarily agreed with, or you couldn't understand the meaning behind it. So what you do when talking about those types of things, you would deliver them from an I feel perspective as opposed to you. You can be very blaming behavior, very confrontational, and you might then spark an argument, which is not the idea of this particular time. So you want to deliver it in a way of I feel. For example, and this is just totally made up, but let's say, for example, Sash left the cheese out and it meant that I couldn't have cheese on top of a fucking burger. I could approach that in a way of, oi, you left the cheese out. You can see my body language instantly. Fucking you, what? You left the cheese out, and it was annoying because then I couldn't have cheese on my burger. What? You always do that. Why are you leaving the cheese out? And it's ruined now. It's moldy. It's fucked. What are you doing? You playing that woman? That's a trigger. I don't say that to Sash. I call her wench. That's also a joke. As opposed to the best way, in my opinion, that you can approach that is, I feel frustrated when we have dinner and I go to make my burger and the cheese is unfortunately all molded. So I would appreciate if that could be taken into account moving forward. Something as simple as that. Expressing your feelings. Obviously, in that example, I couldn't exactly get too passionate about the cheese, but there are going to be certain things in your life with your spouse that you experience that you are going to be passionate about. So when you do share your feelings around it, it's going to have a little bit more gusto compared to that shit story or example I just gave there. But hopefully you understand the premise. So what you're doing, again, is sharing your feelings, expressing how you feel around that particular situation. You're not blaming, you're not saying they need to fix it, they need to do this, you need to consider me, you need to do X, Y, or Z. It's not that. It's just, if your spouse cares enough about you, they're going to appreciate how you feel about certain things, and they might not understand the magnitude of the situation. They might not get that it's actually affecting you so much. So by expressing that, firstly, you're bringing it to light, potentially. It might not be the first time you've spoken on it, but if you are, you're bringing something to light which the other person may not have ever even considered. Secondly, you're also expressing feelings around that as well. You're basically labeling the experience and expressing how you feel around it. What were the emotions that were going through you at that time? And that allows the other person then to take that on board, to digest that, to consider that. And another important point during this interaction is to not, if you're the person listening, not speak. Just listen to the other person's feelings, take it all on board, don't address anything something there and then, take it on board and start to work on that separate to you doing it there and then. Work on it yourself throughout the next week and generally pay attention to how they feel and work on not doing those actions or behaviours to make them feel that way again. That's the nice thing to do. So midway recap, because I realise I'm all over the fucking place here. Firstly, you want to set aside time to sit down and have a chat about things that happened in the previous week. Secondly, one person speaks at a time, and when they do make a point, the other person is not to address that. They just take it on board, digest it themselves, maybe there and then or in their own time, and start to work on that themselves over the course of the coming week, months, years, however long it takes to not necessarily correct your behavior, but address that behavior and work on making it a little bit easier for the other person in this relationship. We have found that when doing that, it just gives you an opportunity to get on the same page, understand each other, and work on things in your relationship. Relationships aren't always easy, and people in this day and age, it's too easy to replace something. If your phone breaks, you get a new one. Your telly breaks, you go and get a new one. Everything's too easy. Relationships are the same, unfortunately. Grass is not always greener elsewhere. The grass is greener where you decide to water it. Relationships do take work. So if you're willing and even have the desire to work on making your relationship stronger, if you are facing struggles, or even if you're not facing struggles, I feel like this technique of setting 1 hour aside per week to express different issues, different feelings that you may have had around certain behaviours, gives you both a chance to get on the same page and to work on them to make your communication and your relationship a lot easier and smoother moving forward. And I know this part might sound a little bit out of place being at the end, but fuck it, I feel like I need to cover it just in case. But in that hour, you're supposed to split that 50-50, give yourselves half an hour each, and that should be enough time if you're doing that regularly. And you don't have to use the full hour either. If you ain't got things to address, don't make things up for the sake of it. You don't need to. That's what, that's what I'm saying, isn't it, pal? No, mate, I don't want a fucking problem, mate. Listen, right, I just want to set aside time to communicate with you because it just seems to be really fucking hard sometimes. I don't want it to carry on like this. I want us to be friends. I want us to have a lovely relationship. So come on, Flower. Just let's set aside some time, right? And let's talk about some things, all right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I've got for you. Hopefully you like this. Give it a thumbs up, share it, let other people know about it if you think that it could help them. Be careful in how you address that because that could come across offensive if you think, oh, listen, I saw this video and I think you need to start doing that in your life because you and your missus, you look like you're fucked, but don't be doing that because you're likely then to cause a scrap. Anyway, signing off. Much love to everybody. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you again in 2 days' time, depending on when you're watching this. Catch you later.